Explore the vibrant arts and culture landscape of Michigan, a state with a thriving creative ecosystem that has birthed iconic movements like Motown and the Purple Rose Theater. Home to legendary musicians, writers, and artists, Michigan boasts a rich tapestry of cultural heritage known worldwide. Michigan Creates is a podcast series that will connect listeners with gifted artists and cultural institutions that are nurturing Michigan's vibrant creative landscape. Welcome to another episode of Michigan Creates. I'm your host, Ara Topouzian, and on this podcast, we shine a light on the incredible creativity happening all across Michigan. Recently, I had the pleasure of speaking with Lyla Catellier, Curator of Public Programs at the Cranbrook Art Museum. I first met Lyla when she invited me to perform music for a wonderful exhibition she curated at the museum. After just a short conversation, I knew I wanted to have her on the show. She's a wealth of knowledge and passion for the arts. For those who may not be familiar with all the amazing work happening at the Cranbrook Art Museum, you're in for a treat. Join me as I sit down with Lyla. Lyla, it is going to be a pleasure to talk to you and learn more about you and Cranbrook Art Museum. You and I met when you brought me for an exhibit that you had going on, and I had the opportunity to play some music in such a beautiful museum. And then you and I chit-chatted afterward, and I thought it would be great to bring you on Michigan Create. So thank you for taking time to talk to me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ara, for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here and to be a part of the Michigan Creatives cohort that you're creating with your podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's dive into your background first. So, leading up to your present role here at Cranbrook, what led you down this road, and were you doing work in the art community before this role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the Curator of Public Programs here at Cranbrook Art Museum. I've been here for about 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to this, I have had a long career of organizing specifically public programming. I've felt very blessed, actually, to have been able to create a career that is really focused on helping artists, architects, and designers share their work with the public. And so prior to my role here at Cranbrook Art Museum, I was the Director of Public Programs for the Graduate School of Architecture, Preservation, and Planning at Columbia University in the city of New York for about 6 years. And there I did much more academic programming. The audience there was more focused specifically on architecture, design, urban planning.
Right.
And so I was doing things that were academic conferences as well as their commencement, which is attended by 5,000 people at the center of the campus. And prior to that, I worked at the Chicago Architecture Foundation. So really a long time working in architecture and design specifically. There I did citywide scavenger hunts and programming for Open House Chicago, really sort of helping people understand how the built environment impacts them and celebrating the architectural beauty of that city. I'm trained as a sculptor, and I got my BFA in sculpture. I also have an art history degree in my undergrad, and I studied for my master's degree in arts administration and cultural policy at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And so very early in my career as a young artist, I recognized that I was very good at logistics and coordination, helping people come together. And I recognized also that my artwork was very personal, and it felt like I was not interested in becoming a commercial artist. I didn't want to pursue that as a form of income. So I decided that it would be best to use my skills of coordination for the kind of greater good of the arts. And I'm actually very excited. I have just achieved my public service loan forgiveness, which is 10 straight years of making my payments from my graduate student loans. So it's a major accomplishment for an artist like me to have been able to maintain my employment in the arts for so long. So I'm very proud of myself. So everyone out there who's working towards your public service loan forgiveness, please do not lose hope now.
Yeah, no, I know a few people that have gone through that and have accomplished that same goal. So that's terrific.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's an impressive background, and you have the passion for it, even in that short period of time that you and I kind of worked together on that performance. I could clearly see that you've got passion for what you do, and it not just obviously the art museum itself, but really the entire ecosystem. So it's great that we got you back to Michigan. Talk about Cranbrook Art Museum. For those that have never been, first of all, you need to go. If you're a Michigan resident and you're out in the Metro Detroit area, the Cranbrook Art Museum is a must to be at. But tell people a little bit of background on the museum and why they should come to the museum.
Absolutely. The Art Museum is a wonderful place, and we're part of the Cranbrook educational community, which folks locally may know as a K through 12 private school system. The whole educational community was founded by George Go Booth and Ellen Scripps Booth when they purchased the property in 1903 as their sort of up north estate. And over the course of time, they built not only their own home with a wonderful 400-acre garden, the largest volunteer run garden in the United States, as a matter of fact, as well as this K through 12 school system, the Cranbrook Institute of Science, which many will know for Steggy the Stegosaurus and their wonderful mineral and rock collection, as well as Cranbrook Academy of Art, which is a graduate school of art with 10 different programs of study, from painting to ceramics. And so the campus was designed by Lyla Catellier, who is a wonderful Finnish architect who came to the United States in the early 1920s and proceeded to work on a campus master plan with our founders, the Booths, to really create a mecca for the arts. The statement that we are founded on is a life without beauty is only half lived. So the idea is that the campus itself is a total work of art, and the experience that one has here, whether you're a 4-year-old attending our early education program or a graduate student who is a working artist, you can really have an exceptional experience here, learning about and being immersed in art. And so I was drawn to this location because of that focus on art, really specifically. It's, of course, a wonderful home for an art museum. The art museum's collection was founded with the Booths collection, which is highly specific to the arts and crafts movement and fine artisanship from throughout time and history. And we have evolved as a contemporary art museum since about 1930 is when we consider the beginning of the art museum into a contemporary art museum, especially over the last 10 years. Prior to that, we really were collecting the work of people who were involved in Cranbrook, especially the academy, the students who graduate, the artists in residence who teach here. And we really evolved our focus as a contemporary art museum in 2016 with the adoption of a new mission statement, which really focuses on collecting today's diverse and adventuresome artists. We want to develop audiences that can understand the full breadth of work that is happening in the United States and abroad, but also with a new focus on Detroit artists who are here creating a wonderful community right here in the area of Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, talk about that, Lyla. Talk about a little bit more on how that mission has changed a bit, and how do you partner with Detroit artists? How do you bring them in? And folks should know that if they don't, that the Cranbrook Art Museum is in Bloomfield Hills, like I said earlier, Metro Detroit, north of downtown Detroit in the suburbs. And so Detroit, city of Detroit, and Bloomfield Hills, Bloomfield Township, there's a bit of a gap there. And so the museum focusing on artists in Detroit, I guess I'd love to understand the strategy behind making that decision, and then how do you physically make those connections happen?
Absolutely. So Detroit has always been very important to Cranbrook. We're
Mhm.
just 20 miles north of the city, and our founders were from Detroit and were very active in the art scene in Detroit. They were founders also of the Detroit Arts and Decorative Society, which became the College for Creative Studies. They were
Right.
founders in the early Detroit Institute of the Arts. They were major patrons of Mary Chase Perry Stratton, who's the founder of Pewabic. And so, in the long tail of history, Cranbrook has always been very engaged in the art scene in Detroit. And in recent memory, it really became important. Many art collections, especially at collecting institutions like ourselves, were based primarily on gifts of art, art that is given to the institution
Right.
by a benefactor, by an art collector, by an artist themselves. And as a result of that, much of the collection is white men, to be frank. Many of the artists who are being collected throughout the history of the institution fit into that category. And it's not reflective of the overall society of Southeast Michigan. And
Right.
so it's very important to us to foster inclusivity and creativity and community through the power of contemporary art and design. And so that project really began with a new director, Andrew Satake Blauvelt, who has had experience. He came from the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, and he is a graduate of the Academy of Design, actually, and he is a AIGA award-winning designer in his own right, a curator primarily of design. And it was really his joining of the museum that led us to create this update to our mission and create a new collection, which is focused on Detroit and Detroit metro artists. And that collection is being built in a very specific way. We have sort of directed much of our acquisition funding to purchasing work of Detroit. And so right now, actually, at the museum on view is an exhibition called How We Make the Planet Move, a Detroit Collection Part 1. So it's the first version of a Detroit Collection exhibition that's currently on view. It includes 30 different artists, 33 works. And that's just a small portion of what we've collected. There were many works in our collection from over time that were by Detroit artists, but there had not been this very specific focus. And so what we have been doing is curating exhibitions like Skilled Labor, Black Realism in Detroit, which is one of our most attended exhibitions of all time, which featured many Black artists who were Detroiters who were featuring the figure and people in all of its sort of different aspects of life. And many different works that were in that exhibition were collected by the museum at the time. I believe there were 5 or 6 different works that were collected from that exhibition with this very specific concerted effort to give voice to artists like Mario Moore, for example, who is a wonderful second generation artist in Detroit. His mother, Sabrina Nelson, is also a wonderful Detroit artist. Mario really celebrates Detroit's history in his work, and we have an artwork from a collection that is about Detroit history that tells the story of the Thorntons, who were escaped free people who went to Canada by way of Detroit through what was ultimately a riot of Detroiters who helped them escape. So we're really celebrating the history of Detroit through the artwork that we're collecting and trying to give more voice to an already extremely vibrant art community, really just contributing to it. Cranbrook doesn't make the art scene in Detroit by
Right.
any means, but we're trying to sort of elevate its status around the world with our reputation, which is highly international, especially for our participation in the mid-century modern design movement. We're sometimes known as the cradle of mid-century modern design. And so we're really using that international voice, that international recognition of Cranbrook's name to bring extra attention to the wonderfully vibrant art scene in Detroit.
It's amazing, truly amazing, the sort of the radical changes that have kind of gone on, with the museum. I got to imagine that's also helped as far as sort of an increase. It's given increased opportunities, certainly to artists, and certainly opens up another audience for the museum. Lyla, is all of this to say, is this part of, we talked offline of the strategic plan that was in place in 2021. I assume a lot of this is part of that. Are there any other aspects of that strategic plan that were either accomplished or you're in the process of completing?
Yes, absolutely. So, hiring me as a curator of public programs, it's the first time that this position has been available. So, I'm filling a new role and I've sort of grown into it with my
Great.
skills. And that was part of the adoption of a new strategic plan, which was designed to build an artist centered and community centric museum. It's sort of, we're trying to build a new model of public service, which is based on three prongs. We want it to be artist centered, meaning focusing on the artist's work, on their intention. We want it to be object oriented, meaning that we care for and collect objects and think about how these objects live in the world and help give them meaning through our translation and our interpretation of those works, and also community centric, meaning that we do our best to ensure that we're not only serving the community immediately around us in Bloomfield Hills, but also in Detroit. And so, as part of the strategic plan, I have done several projects that reach out into the city of Detroit. One of our first projects along this, as we've sort of have been building this momentum, was a major exhibition by Nick Cave, which was called Here, which took place all over the city of Detroit with a massive film project. It was a huge retrospective of Nick Cave's work. Nick Cave is an artist that's based in Chicago, but did receive his MFA in fiber from here at the Cranbrook Academy of Art. So we have a very strong relationship with Nick Cave. But that project really helped us solidify our relationships with organizations like the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, where we have been working really intentionally on public activations. Right. So, for example, in the summer of 2022, we had also a major exhibition of work by Sonia Clark, who is another graduate of the Academy of Art, on her work that was all community centered. And so every single piece of work that was in the exhibition had some element of audience interaction. We did for that the Detroit COVID Memorial, which was a long project with Sonia over the course of about 2 years, where we did public activations where folks could create their own memories of someone or something that they had lost due to COVID, and place that memory on a little sheet of paper and put it inside of a pouch. And those pouches were collected. Of course, people could keep them if they wanted to, but they were collected into a mass memorial of over 10,000 objects that was shown at the Huntington Place. It was displayed there, and then we brought it to the museum, and throughout the exhibition, guests were invited to contribute their own. And so we're stewarding that artwork, but it is co-owned. It's owned by the city of Detroit, and it was co-created with the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, the city of Detroit, and Cranbrook Art Museum. And so we did lots of also activations throughout the city of Detroit in gardens with a cyanotype project of Sonia Clark's called Finding Freedom. So we try in every instance, in every exhibition that we host, to find ways that if the work connects with community, that we find ways to both invite communities up to Cranbrook and then also meet them where they are in Detroit and communities like Pontiac, for example.
It's amazing the word. I know I keep probably using the same word here, and I probably should find a different word, but I mean, you can clearly hear the passion in your voice and the excitement for doing all of these different exhibits. How many exhibits are you working on any given year?
Yeah, it's quite a bit of work for the number of staff that we have. I think that we have somewhere in the range of about 25 full-time staff at the museum. Maybe it's a little less than that. I think that might include some part-time staff. But we have 3 seasons a year, and there are up to 3 exhibitions in 2 of those seasons at a time. And then there are 2 semi-permanent exhibitions at the museum. I also work on summer programming. So I'm the designer of Cranbrook on the Green, Artist Design Miniature Golf, which is a miniature golf program that I like to say we encourage people to play while they learn. So it tells the story of Cranbrook's history through 11 interactive wholes that were designed by artists or feature artists. And so that exhibition also happens over the summer. So I think that anywhere between 8 and 12 exhibitions, but we do put a great deal of work into the interpretation, to the programming. So, for example, I'll mention that the exhibition that you played as a part of was a works by Neha Vedpathak, who is a Detroit artist. She is of Indian. She's Indian born, but has worked in Detroit for more than 10 years. And her exhibition was part of a series called Fresh Paint, which is a series that we use to give Detroiters their very first museum exhibition. She was the third artist to be featured in that exhibition. So she has exhibited at galleries, she has exhibited in other places, but never at an art museum, which is a really specific opportunity. And we happen to own a wonderful Agnes Martin piece, who is one of Neha Vedpathak's heroes. And so we were able to do a sort of two-person show where Neha was able to create an entirely new body of work shown alongside Agnes Martin. That show has just closed. But what I do is create interactive programming that is interdisciplinary, putting artists in conversation with each other. And so Neha uses a process that she calls plucking, where she plucks apart this very strong but very delicate Japanese paper into these wonderful sculptural, sort of figural but very minimal pieces that hang on the wall. And so I invited a series of artists who play on plucked instruments, including yourself on the qanun, to play these long meditative activations inside the gallery alongside the work, so that they could experience how much time is spent learning an instrument like the qanun. An artist has a very long-term relationship with a stringed instrument that they practice for, dozens of tens of hundreds of hours over time. And that same sort of meditative process presents itself in Neha Vedpathak's work. So in my work, what I'm trying to do is help people stop and slow down and spend more time with the artwork by featuring another different kind of artist who has a complementary skill or practice. So that's kind of the way that we really want to think about getting people in-depth understanding of contemporary art and really spend more time with it than they might otherwise.
Well, I will tell you, that was an amazing experience for me. I really wasn't sure, if I have to be honest, what I was going to expect. And certainly when I saw that you had called it a plucking performance, I thought, oh, that's sort of different, until I got there. And I'm still talking about how wonderful it was to play in the museum. And it really was meditative. It was a fun afternoon that really went by very quickly. So mission accomplished, Lyla, as far as creating that atmosphere. And I can only imagine the other artists that got to be part of that, had that same experience. As we wrap this up, because I know we could talk a lot.
For hours.
We could talk for hours. I want to pick at the other part of your brain, where we are talking maybe a little bit about art advocacy, since you have a bit of that as the background. And we did talk a little bit offline as far as the importance and whatnot. As a curator, as a museum curator, your background, now you're here in Michigan. Why are the arts important for us to advocate for here in the state of Michigan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I got involved in art at a very early age as an outlet for difficult experiences that I had in my childhood. I think that art gives us a sense of agency or a sense of control, that we can be ourselves in the artwork that we create, whether that is playing an instrument, or maybe you can't afford to play an instrument, so you create an instrument of your own to create music. Maybe you're drawing terrible drawings that you would never want to show anyone, or maybe you have honed a highly developed skill in, very specific realistic art. But the point is that when we find in ourselves something that we want to express, we develop the skills to express ourselves in other ways, to be passionate advocates for the things that we see. I also think that art is a really important way to think about what it means to be free and how we might achieve a society that is more free and more autonomous, where beauty really takes a precedent, and where our creative selves are, where we're more able to be open to our creative selves in our communication and in the way that we express ourselves in all aspects of our lives. And so I really believe in art as a driver for community, for not only self-expression, but for connection between each other. It's a way that we can put sort of creating an artwork is a call. Mm-hmm. And it's very likely that as we send out that call, we'll hear a response. Right. And maybe that response doesn't come immediately, and it doesn't come from close by, but engaging in a creative act is a way for us all to connect to each other. And I believe that all of us have better and more rich lives by engaging in our own creativity, or at the very least, appreciating the creativity of others.
Well said, Lyla. I don't think I could have said that better myself, and I'm glad I asked you that question. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. This was wonderful. We're going to encourage folks to go to the website and check out the next exhibit at the Cranbrook Art Museum. Thank you, Lyla.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ara. It was wonderful to talk to you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Michigan Creates. We hope you've had fun diving into the creativity of our state. From Motown melodies to artisanal wonders, Michigan never fails to dazzle. But hey, the creativity doesn't stop here. Connect with us online, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new episodes. Help us spread the word and also share your own artistic stories. So until next time, I'm Ara Topouzian, and I want you to keep those musical instruments in tune, keep those paintbrushes moving, and keep those cameras rolling. Remember, in Michigan, the only limit is your imagination. Stay creative.